everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. I told you at the end of the lawnmower video that our next video I had something really cool to show you. Well, it's here and I can't wait to introduce you to it. This is my dad's 1953 F100 Ford pickup. Under the category built, not bought. My dad bought this truck out of a farmer's field in Mount Hope, Ontario. Oh gosh, somewhere in the late 80s, I would guess. I was just a kid. I'd just gotten my driver's license, so that'd be 84, 85 in there somewhere. It was just an old farm truck. The engine and transmission were in the back of it. The only thing it had going for it was that it had four wheels. He spent years and years and years fixing it all up. He did everything himself. The only things on this truck that I can remember, he may correct me, the only things on this truck that I can remember that were not done by my dad's hands were the paint job. And that was back in the days when we knew a guy at the local body shop and he'd paint cars for like $300 cash on Saturday mornings. And that's one of those paint jobs that's laid on this truck. He painted a lot of cars for us. It probably cost a little more than $300 to get this painted because there's a lot of stuff to work around. And the front seat, he took that to an upholstery shop and got it done. Aside from that, man, everything else was done in his driveway. That there on the door is the name of the auto parts business that our family had back in the 50s and early to mid 60s. That's all hand painted on. Very nice. Same with there's some pinstriping and stuff on it. It's hard to see, but that's all hand done. The paint is acrylic enamel, just an old school acrylic enamel. And the color, if I remember correctly, is called Mars Red. It's a Volkswagen color from the early 80s. Look at that, eh? All the louvers punched in the hood. We took that down to Oakville, Ontario. There was a guy down there that used to do louvers. I can remember that from when I was a kid. It runs on a set of big and littles. I think it's got two 3560s on the back, and the front ones are, what are they? 225/60. And they're on custom 15x7 Stockton wheels. I don't know if Stockton wheel is even around anymore. They might have gotten gobbled up by Wheel Vintiques. I'm not entirely sure. But back in the day, Stockton wheel was where you went to get all your cool old repop wheels in custom widths and stuff. The body, it's the original cab, the original doors, the original hood. And kind of the top half of the box, I think, is original. The back fenders, I'm pretty sure, have both been changed. And the front fenders, I think, one of them may be the original one. The other one had to be replaced. The running boards could not be saved, unfortunately, and we could never find a pair. So they are fiberglass reproductions. But they must be good ones because they've been on there for 30-something years and they're still okay. There's a view of the back of it. I think that's the original tailgate too, if I am not mistaken. You can see it's got a pretty decent hitch that we made for it too. I mean, this thing used to work back in the day. We used to tow cars around with this. What the heck? It's a truck, right? It has to do truck things. The mirrors are from a Volkswagen microbus for any of you that might recognize those. As far as the truck itself goes, like structurally, it's still sitting on the original frame that it was born with. In the back, we removed quite a few leaves from the springs, and it's got a 10-bolt Chevy rear end in it, right out of I think it's out of a Nova. It was the right width and everything, so that went in the back. It's nothing special. It's like a 274 gear, one wheel peel. It's just good for cruising down the road, right? And The front, the original plan, I think he wanted to leave the leaf springs and put a drop axle in the front, but that proved there were some hurdles with that. So what we ended up doing, it's got a whole front subframe from Volare or Aspen in it. There used to be it was pretty popular on these trucks. There used to be a fellow that would sell you a pair of templates that you'd put against the frame and notch it out so the Volare subframe would fit perfectly in there, and then you just weld it in. So that's what's done with this. It's got a Volare subframe in the front. Here's the inside of it. It's got kind of a custom dash. The dash isn't all, hacked up or nothing. That's just this piece goes in where the original cluster was, and it's got odometer gauges. This is a really nice steering wheel. It's a vintage Ford steering wheel. You gotta love that. The steering column, I think, is a modified Mustang steering column. There you can see, like I said, that's the original seat. That's the original seat that the truck was born with, just fixed up and recovered. It's got power windows. I think those are from some kind of a Mercedes. I can remember getting those at a swap meet or something, and he said, well, those regulators look like about the right size. So they're from a Mercedes, and they're run off some kind of, I think, 1980s Thunderbird switches. Man, I wonder what's under there. You want to find out? Let's have a look. You weren't thinking you were going to see a Chevy engine in here, were you? Oh my God. We would never allow that to happen. This here is it's a 5-liter roller motor, a Mustang HO roller motor. It's totally stock, except it's got an old Edelbrock Performer 289 and a 600 Holley carburetor on it. It's got the Duraspark Ford ignition, and it's attached to a C4 transmission. I'm not sure how old that is. Originally, when this thing was built, it had a 68 302 with a cast iron FMX on the back of it. It ran like that for years and years and years and years until the unleaded gas finally killed the cylinder heads on it, and it would just like hardly run anymore. So I went down in his driveway. We pulled the heads off it and saw the damage to the exhaust valves. They were sunk in a long way, to the point where the lifters couldn't absorb it anymore, and they just literally, the exhaust valves weren't closing, and that's why the thing would barely run. So we weighed our options, and then just out of the blue, this engine and transmission popped up. It's a Ford Reman engine. It had like 0 miles on it when we put it in here. So that's what we did. We just changed the whole engine. And let me tell you, this thing, it's got a lot of get up and go. I mean, it's a light little truck, right? And that engine's got lots of snap. It was also converted to hung pedals instead of the through the floor pedals that it would have been born with. And this stuff here is from Granada, the booster and the master cylinder, and I think it's still got the Granada support inside the cab, modified to fit this truck, right? And modified Granada pedals. You can see there the Fox body Mustang header fits like perfectly around the Chrysler steering box. I think we had to put one tiny little ding in it for the pressure hose there. Aside from that, it's like it was made for it. And that, I think, is still the 1968 Ford Galaxy steering pump that was always on it, and it runs the Chrysler steering box no problem. No, that's a lie, because the 68 Ford would have had a round Ford pump on it. So this must be a Chrysler pump, just because it's a Saginaw, right? I don't remember too many Fords with Saginaw pumps on them. My bad. But you can see here, it's got, the original inner fenders and stuff. That is the original Radiator that was in the truck when we got it. And it was Record, and it's been in there working just fine all these years. And an overflow jug for the rad made out of an old thermos. That's old school hot rodding at its finest. So we've got a little bit of a list of stuff we need to do. It's up for a service, so we're gonna give it an oil change and a filter and lube the front end and just kind of go over it, make sure everything is good. We're gonna check the front end, check the brakes, just give it kind of a good, safety inspection, make sure everything is good. Then there's a couple of problems he wants me to look at. One, the shifter, it's got a Jenny shifter or a low car shifter or something, aftermarket floor shifter in it. And he says it doesn't seem to have too much of a feel of a detent, in between drive and reverse. So drive, neutral, reverse, it's kind of vague feeling, right? So I'm going to have a look at that and see if I can get it a little more notchy in between the gears so you could kind of feel the gears are shifting in. There's an issue with the throttle where it's got a tight spot in it, right off idle, that you got to kind of work your way through. So it's not hanging up, it's tight to open, but it closes just fine. So we don't have a hanging throttle. We've got a throttle that's kind of reluctant to open. So we'll have a look at that. Probably just a linkage thing. I'll have a look at it and see what I can find. And there is an issue with the shift quality, the 2-3 shift. He says it's a little bit vague and mushy at times. So we're going to have a look at all those things, see if we can get her straightened out and give it back to him, because summertime's coming, and for the first time in a long time, we're actually going to be able to get out and enjoy these things this year. This truck has been part of our family for a very, very long time. My mom and dad have gone everywhere in this thing. They've been all over the place in it. It's got like tens and tens of thousands of miles been put on it over the decades. It was built to drive, not to sit in the garage. So anyway, I guess we're going to get to work now and start going down the list of stuff that he wants me to do to it. We'll get started on that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed the introduction and overview of it. And I can't wait to get to work on this thing. So, until we see you again in the next one, thanks for tuning in. And this is Kevin checking out from the Claremont Classic Garage. So long for now.